Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 7 of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. And today's episode is really perhaps the one of the most important episodes for me because what I'm about to share with you is something that transformed my life totally. And it's something that very few people know about. And it's really very, very powerful. And will affect you very directly. Okay. Whoever you are, wherever you are, this will affect you. This will affect your life. So I would highly recommend to just give this a shot and just to spend a few minutes listening to this and see if this applies to you. So in today's episode, the question is, or really the concept is how goal setting ended up making me broke and causing me really to ultimately to fail, and what I did instead that built me several seven-figure businesses, but more importantly, what allowed me to achieve uh, more goals faster, allowed me to speed up my achievement. So let's begin. Let's start here. What is the promise of goal setting, right? So if you are into personal development at all, or into positive thinking, or productivity, or business, right? And you've heard it all the time, like, without a goal, all these, like, all these quotes about how important it is to have a goal, right? And you need a goal. And if you're not aiming for anything, you're aiming for nothing, right? Okay. So let's look at that. Let's look at that and see what's happening. So I'll tell you what happened with me was when I started getting into personal development. Maybe you are getting into personal development now, or you've been doing it for a long time. But as I was getting into it, I discovered goals and I started to set goals, right? Like, you start to think, oh, I can set income goals. I want to make this much money and I want to have my hourly rate be this much and I want to go here and go there. And initially I achieved a lot of goals fast. Okay. I started to achieve goals really quickly. So that was really cool. I remember I set a goal to travel to Europe, and within a few months, I went and traveled to Europe. I set a goal to increase my income, and then guess what? My income went up. But then what happened? Well, after that, I started to fail. I started to not achieve my goals, and in fact, I had a failure that is just the worst failure of my life came after that period of goal setting and positive thinking and everything. So why is that? Why did that happen? And why does that happen when we set goals? Why does that happen? So here's what I discovered. When we set goals, we are inadvertently hoping for things, right? We want things, right? I want $1 million. Well, guess what? In the moment you say it, you know that you don't have $1 million, right? You know that, and part of the positive thinking and personal development, one branch of it is like, you know what, you just need to program your mind and you can do affirmations. And I already have $1 million. You already visualize yourself, right? Okay, I get that, and we'll talk about that. But unless you're totally delusional, right, which is, it's hard to do, part of you will know that, hey, you don't have $1 million. So what happens? That knowledge of I want $1 million, but I don't have it, it it starts to cause anxiety, right? It starts to cause anxiety because what happens is we're expecting things. I want things to be a certain way. Well, they're not a certain way, and part of you knows that the probability of success is not 100%. Even if you're optimistic, right? Even if you're optimistic, well, like, okay, $1 million. Well, how can I get it? And right, it causes this uncertainty. So, and oftentimes that might drive people. It causes them to get stressed, and then after they get stressed, they start to do things. But the problem with that is that type of well, it causes two problems. One problem is, that type of stress energy is not the best energy because that a person that's kind of stressed, running on anxiety, if they get slapped in the face or punched in the gut, so to speak, metaphorically, right? When you start to encounter failures, those people, they, an anxious person doesn't have fortitude. They don't have strength. They don't have what it takes to be able to push through the difficulty. And that's what happened with me with goal setting. Was my first initial goals, okay, they were great, but it was low hanging fruit, right? I already had a successful business, right? So in fact, setting a goal for better, more income, it was easy to do, right? Traveling, it was easy to do. I had a lot of money. But then what do you do when you start to fail, right? You set a goal for $1 million, but then you find the debt is accumulating. You find that your projects are failing. You find that your expectations are being crushed, right? And everything you hoped for is just being destroyed. So what do you do then? Well, the problem is that the anxiety isn't strong enough. That kind of just anxiety by itself, stress by itself is not strong enough to push you through. And what happens is you have the fear of failure and then the uncertainty, right? It ends up causing procrastination and avoidance, right? That's what happened to me ultimately. I just started, I started to procrastinate, like, oh, okay, I'll do it later. I'll do it later, right? And because I want the goal, right? And think for yourself, you want the goal, but you're worried, right? You're worried. It's uncertain. Because you're worried, you're trying to find the answer. And that causes over planning. It causes perfectionism, right? I don't know if you can relate, right? And ultimately, it causes less achievement. I was watching, this, this segment on television on this news story, and there was this news story. There was this girl, and she invented a device that detects lead, water, lead poisoning in water. Well, it's not poisoning, it's just contamination, right? Lead contamination in water. And she's just like 12 years old, and she discovered this thing. She created an invention. And this device, it works in a few minutes, while all the other devices, they take like a whole day or something, right? And they're very expensive. Her thing was like, cost like $10 or something. So it was crazy. She had this useful invention. It was for Flint, Michigan, for people there, because they have lead contamination in their water. So then what shocked me was that they asked the teacher, and her teacher, and they asked her, what's unique about this girl? Why is this girl so successful? Right? She's like inventing stuff, and her classmates are not inventing anything. And she said one thing, that she's a risk taker. She's not afraid to fail, right? And that just, I wasn't expecting that, but that's what she said. And I was, and I was like, yeah, that's true, right? It's true, because a lot of people, the other kids in the class, they know a lot of stuff, but they're not doing anything about it because they're afraid to fail, right? They're worried. How do I do it? She was not worried. She just did it. She just did stuff and made mistakes and failed, but that's how she was able to get to her goal. So basically, if we look at what is the formula for success, well, we know it's action, right? It's action, it's persistent action, it's consistent action, right? It's action in Winston Churchill said that success is going from failure to failure without a loss of optimism, right? So you keep pushing, you keep driving, you keep trying. We know that that's the key for success. But then we focus on setting goals that cause us to be anxious and cause us to be worried, like, oh, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? So here's the alternative. Here's the alternative. What I discovered. This is the key, guys, for massive achievement, right? To really, if you want to achieve much, much, much more, faster, better, and most importantly, more enjoyable, this is what you do. You focus on action, okay? Because we know that's the key for success, right? So we focus on the process, not on the goal, right? We focus on the process, but okay, you might be thinking, okay, Mike, I know that, I've heard that, but it's one step further. So here's what you do, and this is what I do when I'm thinking about a goal, right? I focus on the process, but then in the process, so let's say you want to make $1 million, right? Okay, that's fine. Make $1 million. But how are you going to do it? So what is the action? What is the process? What is the system you're going to follow? Right? Does it involve writing? Does it involve speaking? Does it involve calling? Does it involve what you right? Like there what is the action? But then what you do, you take that action and and then how do you get yourself to do it? Well, you focus on it and you ask these questions that I have here. And this is what I do for myself. I ask, what is important for me? What is it that I stand for? What is the right thing to do? What is the thing that I'm passionate about, that I feel strongly about, right? For example, recording this podcast, I'm not focusing on the goal and like, oh, I want to record this podcast because it's going to get me all those results, right? That's not what I'm focusing on when I'm doing it. What I'm focusing on is being present and what is important for me. Well, it's important for me to really to tell the truth. That's something that's very important to me, and to really extract the knowledge inside of me and share it with you guys. And just this benefiting people, right, and being helpful. So that's the difference between thinking, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. Okay, let me get myself to record my podcast because I want to, I want to make money from it, right? But then my brain is like, well, what if you don't make money from it? Well, okay, maybe I'll try something else, and like, okay, maybe I need to prepare more, right? So it caused all this uncertainty. But instead, when I focus on why is this important now? Why is this what do I feel strongly about? And then I find that, hey, it's important. I need to do something, right? This is key. This is critical. I can't procrastinate on this. It's worth doing. Even if I fail, even if it doesn't work, it's worth doing. So that's the key, guys. That's the key. Does that make sense? Is that clear? So now, one thing I want to mention is goals are important. They are critical, but they're critical for measuring. You still have to set goals and objectives and targets, and you do reviews, right? So the process of goal setting is important, right? But the difference is that you shouldn't be goal setting when you're doing the action, right? It's not, oftentimes, one of the things in personal development that, one of the tropes that people said was, focus on your goals. That's what will motivate you. But I found that not to be true. Instead, focus on what's important for me. What do I stand for? What is it that I can't not do it, right? I can't not do it. Like you wouldn't sell your kids to slavery to make money, right? Because it's not, no amount of money. If somebody's like, sell me your child for $1 million, you would never contemplate it, right? Because you're outraged by the idea. And the same thing you have to do is you have to find what causes you to be outraged, what causes you to really feel worked up. And then that worked up energy, that's what gets you going. So that's the key, guys. That's the key. So in closing, two things. First is I want you to think about a goal that you have now, okay? And this is an exercise. Let's do it together. You can do it mentally, but think about a goal that you have, okay? So you have that goal. Now, go back and focus on the process. What is the action that you will do to get to that goal, right? And think about it. May be many things, but think about one thing. Is it writing? Is it calling? Is it talking? Is it doing something, right? Traveling somewhere, right? What is the action? Now, go one step deeper. What part of that action do you feel strongly about? You feel outraged. You feel passionate. You feel, why is this important? And really why? Not just, oh, it's important, but really, what is, you know, finding that thing that caused you to be passionate, caused you to be outraged, caused you to feel strongly. So do you have that? Has that come up? And if it has, what you notice is that you're motivated to do it. You're motivated to do it. So, guys, let me know what you think of today's episode in the comments. I'm very curious to hear, because this is very different than than the normal goal setting, personal development stuff that people talk about. I want to hear what you guys think, and especially the exercise. Did you do this exercise, and what happened? So, yeah, let me know, guys. Anyway, this is Mike Cabani, the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast, and I'll talk to you soon.